And within Luo Feng's mind, Babata's excited voice resounded. Luo Feng, I'm amazing, right? I've said it before, this laser cannon that can kill a star level 6. Killing it was just a simple swipe, it's dead for sure, waha. Babata was extremely proud too. The entire Earth's countries in an instant were in an uproar. Excitement. We've finally succeeded. This disaster is finally over. Luo Feng excitedly walked towards Thunder God. Luo Feng froze, the previously excited listening room immediately quietened down, even the excited representative Zhu Shi stopped. Luo Feng's heart skipped a beat, turning to look at the screen. On the left screen, the swallowing monster's head was still only left with its mouth, but strangely, it was still floating with 2 horns, one long and one short, floating beside it. The 2 horns' golden engravings suddenly let out a glaring golden light. The swallowing monster's huge body, especially on its neck and back, the golden engravings on its scales all lit up. This golden light swiftly followed the engravings and directly transferred to the swallowing monster's huge wings. In an instant, the wings seemed to grow a size larger, the shape slightly changing. Shio. Just like a golden light. The swallowing monster, with only its mouth left on its head, actually dove straight into the ocean. Rumble. The seawater exploded. It failed? Hong's face immediately went pale, his body trembling. Jia Yi looked at the screen in shock, continuously shaking his head, tears flowing down his face silently. Thunder God, who was holding a few wine glasses in celebration, also stared wide-eyed at the screen, the wine glass in his hand unconsciously slipping down. Pa, pa, pa. The glass shattered, the shards flying, the sound was like a sharp sword piercing everyone's heart. Luo Feng stared blankly at the screen, no longer showing any expression. Despair? His heart was filled with grief? At this moment, the entire Earth's heart stopped beating, the entire Earth's humans were in despair. It was as though they were witnessing humanity's demise. The swallowing monster is moving extremely quickly at the bottom of the sea. Its speed is 36,062 meters per second. It's 2.37 times its previous speed. In the listening room, the electronic voice emotionlessly reported the numbers, however there was no longer any reaction. Everyone was as silent as statues, as though they were dead. A low roar filled with rage emitted from its throat. Its injuries were too heavy. It could never forget that white light that instantly attacked. Under that white light, it couldn't dodge at all, it had no power to resist at all. And the essence of its entire body's strength, its horn. It was indeed extremely sturdy, extremely sharp, even though it was sent flying far away by the laser, even though it was injured, it wasn't destroyed. Whoa. After its body's injuries had completely healed, the golden horned beast felt an unprecedented hunger. Its internal world was also extremely hungry. Every single cell in its body seemed to be crying out. It had used up too much energy, its strength had regressed by a lot. Right now it desperately needed to replenish itself. Whoa. The golden horned beast let out a low roar, swiftly drilling upwards from the rock layer. It needed to eat metal. Luo Feng's listening room, the sky outside was getting dark. Luo Feng and the others were looking at 2 people. Hong and Thunder God. If we go on like this, there's no way we'll survive, this swallowing beast is too powerful, too strange. Hong shook his head. If we let it grow stronger like this, even the humans hiding in the archaeological ruins will eventually be killed by it. And I'm sure, it was hit by the laser cannon, its injuries definitely aren't light. I suspect that its last burst of speed was a struggle from its heavy injuries, it could even be its final moments before death. After Hong said that last sentence, even he himself didn't quite believe it. Even if it wasn't its final moments, its strength would definitely be much weaker than before. Hong emphasized, while it's weak, we'll take its life. If we miss this chance, there won't be any more. Thunder God nodded. Luo Feng and the others were a little sad. To watch Hong and Thunder God risk their lives? Thunder God and I, we both have our own domains, if we really risk our lives there's hope. Hong revealed a smile, beside him Thunder God also smiled and nodded. Domain. Luo Feng was shocked. On Earth, only Hong had a domain. Because he had a domain, he was the undisputed #1 on Earth. However, from Hong's words, it seemed like even Thunder God had his own domain. Impossible. How can this be? Within the wrist space, Babata stared wide-eyed and couldn't help but shout, Domain. How can one planet suddenly have 2 people with domains, and they're both Star Traveler level fighters? This is impossible, one of them is crazy, it's like winning the lottery. How can there be 2? Babata, there's no need to make such a big fuss. Luo Feng communicated mentally, Thunder God has a domain, this way fighting the golden horned beast to the death, there's a higher chance, it's a good thing. Luo Feng's mood was heavy. No, Luo Feng, you don't understand. Within the AI space, Babata said, let's put it this way, your soaring shuttle has a total of 3 forms, a total of 9 levels, of which the 3rd form's requirements, you should remember right. Remember, to reach the universe level with an amplitude of 48, and have your own domain, only then can you use it. Luo Feng remembered very clearly. 3 requirements, reaching the universe level is just one of them, what does that mean? Means, even amongst the universe level fighters, there are some who don't have a domain. Universe level, normally a galaxy only has 1 universe level fighter. They might not even have a domain. Babata couldn't help but feel a little crazy, according to the 4 levels, basic, conception, domain, world. Luo Feng, you're still at the basic level. Even amongst the star-level fighters, only a very few have their own domains. A star traveler fighter wanting to have a domain? That's like getting lucky, like winning the lottery. It's fine that you have a Hong on Earth, but now this thunder god also has a domain? From the probability calculation, it's simply 1 in a billion. Babata couldn't help but shout. Luo Feng thought about it. Babata's shock made sense. A galaxy only gives birth to one universe-level fighter. They might not even have a domain. The difficulty for a star traveler fighter to have a domain was obvious. But now Earth suddenly had two. That's good too. Babata nodded. This thunder god has a domain. If he joins forces with Hong, there is a chance of success if they use a fatal blow. There's hope. Luo Feng heard these 3 words from Babata's mouth. He couldn't help but be surprised. Luo Feng, you've never entered the universe before, you don't know how hard it is to have a domain. If Hong and Thunder God were to be discovered in the universe, they would either be killed out of jealousy or be quickly invited to join some large organizations. A planetary state warrior with a domain is definitely synonymous with prodigy. As for domain realm masters, once they go all out, it will be very scary. This was because they were able to combine genetic energy, physical strength, mental energy, and consciousness together, triggering the resonance of the universe. Babata said, and when fighting with their lives on the line, they will ignite their souls, causing the fusion of these many powers to reach an extremely terrifying level. If they don't put their lives on the line, a planet-level domain realm master will be invincible in their own level. Once they go all out, one of them is a level 7 planetary state, the other a level 8 planetary state. It seemed that Hong's attainments in the domain were even deeper. Perhaps he had already stepped into the second stage. If the two of them ignite their souls and fight with their lives on the line, it's really hard to say. Babata sighed, 2 absolute geniuses. If they were in the universe, they wouldn't even have the chance to fight with their lives on the line. Mingyue District's grass patch. Luo Feng watched as the fighter jets flew away. Hong, Thunder God, you have to succeed. Luo Feng said quietly. Howl? Rumble. From the east, the sounds of explosions, monsters' roars resounded, flames shot into the sky. Early in the morning, the sea monsters had already begun their true battle with Jiangnan City. However, with humanity's decades of preparation, they would definitely be able to defend against the sea monsters' attacks in a short period of time. Creak. Luo Feng pushed open the door and entered the living room. The whole family was there. Big brother, how is it? Luo Hua stood up and asked. Is that swallowing monster dead? Su Xen Zhan, who was sitting on the sofa, stood up, looking anxiously at Luo Feng. The 7 people in the living room were all looking at Luo Feng. Luo Feng had already revealed that there would be an attack on the swallowing monster today, and he had a high chance of killing it. No. Luo Feng shook his head. However, there's still hope. Luo Feng said seriously, there's definitely hope. Saying that, Luo Feng headed upstairs. The 7 people in the living room looked at each other. Gong Xen Lan said softly, Feng is under a lot of pressure. Su Xen, go up and accompany him. Okay. Su Xen Lien followed the stairs up. Within the second-floor bedroom, Luo Feng laid on the bed looking at the ceiling. Babata, is there any other way to kill the swallowing monster? Luo Feng asked. No, even the B6 laser cannon failed and was destroyed. There's no other way. We can only rely on the 2-star traveler-level geniuses to fight for their lives. Babata said, the 2 of them ignite their souls, there's still a chance. Babata. Luo Feng thought within, my hybrid copper essence shard is extremely sharp. If Hong and Thunder God use it, wouldn't it be even more powerful? They might even be able to kill the golden horn beast. No, one of them uses a gun, the other uses a knife. Babata denied, only by using a gun and a knife can they unleash the power of their domain to its maximum. This hybrid copper essence shard, 1 shard, how can 2 fighters use it? Only you, as a spirit reader, can use it. Luo Feng was anxious within. This feeling of waiting for humanity's destruction was very painful. He had no other way. Don't rush, I'm currently making a long spear and a knife. Babata said, Hong and Thunder God's weapons, spear and knife, even though they're considered godly weapons on Earth, in the universe they're too weak. I'll use some metal materials from the ship to make 2 weapons for them, in terms of sharpness, toughness, etc. They'll definitely surpass what they're using now. All right. Luo Feng suddenly heard footsteps outside. Su Xen pushed open the door and entered. Very tired? Su Xen sat on the bed, gently massaging Luo Feng's shoulders. It's all right. Luo Feng smelled the scent from Su Xen's body. He couldn't help but extend his hand, pulling Su Xen into his embrace. Su Xen snuggled into Luo Feng's embrace, placing her head on his chest, saying softly, Luo Feng, there's something I wanted to tell you after this disaster is over. However, I'm afraid if I don't say it now, I won't have the chance to in the future. What is it? Luo Feng asked curiously. I'm pregnant. Su Xen said softly. Her voice was soft, yet it was like thunder exploding in Luo Feng's ears. Oh. Luo Feng sat up, looking shocked at Su Xen. You said? Su Xen nodded. Haha, let me check. Oh, hee, I'm pregnant and they're twins, both male. Ah. Babata's voice resounded within Luo Feng's mind. Pregnant? This. Luo Feng stared wide-eyed. He was filled with joy and anxiety. What was this? Indeed, he had been living with Su Xen during the winter break, and had even started discussing when to get married. A man and a woman living together, it was just a matter of time. If not for the golden horned beast, knowing that Su Xan was pregnant, Luo Feng would have been extremely happy. But now, the entire human society was about to collapse. Su Xan was pregnant and it was twins. You're not happy? Su Xan was shocked. No, I'm happy, I'm just confused. Luo Feng was inexplicably anxious. Without any preparation, the heavy burden had landed on his shoulders. Back when he was with Su Xan, he didn't think about prevention, thinking that getting pregnant was a good thing, they were going to get married anyway. But who would have thought now? If he couldn't kill the golden horned beast, then the entire human society would be finished. Even if he had the ability to protect his wife and child, would he let them live a lonely life? And Luo Feng was very clear. Without reaching the star traveler level, roaming the universe was suicide. Luo Feng, what are you thinking about? Su Xan extended her hand and grabbed Luo Feng's arm. Nothing. Luo Feng gently hugged Su Xan, lowering his head and resting it on her stomach. This made Su Xan laugh. It's still early, I can't hear anything. I can. Luo Feng thought to himself that was a bloodline inheritance. Luo Feng didn't really resonate with Hong before when he said he wanted his children to have hope, but now, he did. That was a very special feeling. Children, I don't know if I'll have the time to see you born. However, I promise you'll have a beautiful childhood, you can go to school, you can learn martial arts. I won't let you live in fear forever without hope. I promise. I promise with my life. Times. January 16th morning, the sky and land were still covered in mist. Luo Feng stepped on the soaring shuttle and arrived at Hongning Headquarter City. There were no pedestrians on the streets of Hongning Headquarter City, only a large army swiftly advancing. Luo Feng landed at the entrance of the interstellar transport ship. Investigator Luo. The guards at the entrance bowed respectfully. Luo Feng immediately entered, swiftly heading towards Hong and Thunder God's training room. Following the pathway, Luo Feng saw two people, a man and a woman, two youths. The woman's face shape was more similar to Hong's. Luo Feng had seen information on Hong's children before. Investigator Luo. The pair of youths bowed. Are you the head's children? Luo Feng asked. Even though they looked young, these two were actually older than Luo Feng. It was only because of their strength that they looked young. The pair's eyes were red. Obviously they had just been crying. I won't be meeting the head. Give these two weapons to the head and Thunder God. And, this armor, give it to Thunder God. As Luo Feng said that, he immediately handed over the bag he was carrying. Within it were two sharp weapons that Babata had rushed through the night to make. And the Black Dragon Mountain X-81 ship's owner, the dead officer's belongings, armor. Hong had the cloud contact vine to completely protect him, he didn't need it. Naturally it was better to give it to Thunder God. This. The young man and woman were shocked. The head doesn't usually take care of you, however, your father is very great. Really? Luo Feng said, turning and leaving. Within the training room, Hong, who was dressed in black, held a pitch-black spear in his hand. And a white-clothed bald Thunder God too was caressing the purple-black battle blade in his hands. Good weapon. Hong's eyes gleamed. The blade's structure, center of gravity, it's very comfortable to hold. It suits my blade. Thunder God couldn't help but compliment, and it's very sharp. Gently waving it, the blade felt like it was slicing through the air. Hong smiled and glanced at Thunder God. That armor is a treasure too. You've struck gold. Haha, looks like it's not just you and me brothers who've gotten treasures from the ancient ruins. This Luo Feng too has a few treasures. Thunder God couldn't help but compliment. Did he find some ancient armory? Otherwise, how could he find weapons that suit the two of us so well, and such good weapons too? Hong and Thunder God already had their own domains. Their levels were extremely high. Even if they had just gotten a weapon, they only needed to wave it a little and they would be able to unleash 120% of its power. Master. A low voice resounded. The swallowing monster has just appeared on the west coast of America, swallowing a dilapidated shipyard in the wilderness, swallowing many corroded ships. It's only flown out for 2 minutes and 18 seconds before returning to the sea. Hong and Thunder God's expressions changed. Last night, the swallowing monster had gone out to sea twice. Including this morning, this was the third time. Every time it flew out for a short period of time, swallowing large amounts of steel before returning to the sea. It's become extremely careful now. Hong said coldly. Obviously the laser cannon from before has made it cautious. However, from last night until now, it's come out to eat 3 times. It's definitely heavily injured and needs to absorb large amounts of energy to recover. Right, we can't wait any longer. Thunder God emphasized. Hong nodded. They originally wanted to wait for the swallowing monster to fly out of the sea and meet with an opportunity to kill it. However, they didn't expect the swallowing monster to go out for a short period of time before immediately hiding. Follow and lock onto the swallowing monster's energy, we'll fly out to the sea and follow it. The moment it appears. Thunder God's gaze was sharp. Let's go. Hong was even more direct. They were very clear. Right now, the Devourer Beast was in a heavily injured state. If they wasted this opportunity, the Devourer Beast's strength would completely recover. Then their chances would be even slimmer. On the outer wall of Yangzhou City, the Jiangnan base city was divided into the main city area and the 8 cities of David. The 8 cities of David surrounded the base city. So when the war started, the real fighting was in the 8 citadels. The main city was in the innermost area, so it was the safest. Unless they were attacked by the Devourer Beast, there was usually no problem. Shio. Blades danced in the air, sweeping past the wide river under the steel walls. This river was dug here by billions of monsters from a certain point in the Yangtze River. This river was 12 kilometers long and nearly 60 meters wide. Countless sea monsters were rushing towards Yangzhou City. They weren't afraid of death at all. They're retreating. They're retreating, the soldiers on the city wall shouted excitedly. Too many monsters died and they blocked up the river. The monsters behind couldn't come over. Plus those horde leader monsters from before, Luo Feng killed so many of them in an instant. Of course they have to retreat to clear the river and replenish their forces. Li Dawei gazed below. We have about 2 hours to rest. Luo Feng gazed down at the countless monster corpses that blocked up the river. He couldn't help but shake his head. There were too many monsters. Every day, countless monsters were born in the ocean. Could humanity even kill them all? In a short period of time humanity could hold them off. However, the longer it dragged on, the worse it would be for humanity. The worst would be the devourer beast destroying the steel walls of the base city. The moment there was no protection from the steel walls that had been built for tens of years, the sea monsters would directly enter the human residential areas. Then it would be over. So right now they had to get rid of the devourer beast. Luo Feng looked at his tactical communications watch. It was the Dojo of Limits and Thunder Dojo's official announcement. 2 dojo heads, Hong and Thunder God, had already set off. They had arrived at the Pacific Ocean and were about to battle the devourer beast. Beside, Li Dawei lowered his head and looked at his tactical communications watch. Has it begun? Li Dawei's face had a rare hint of nervousness. Commander Li, I'll return to my quarters first. If there's any trouble, inform me immediately. Luo Feng instructed before swiftly flying away. Luo Feng flew in the air above Yangzhou City. He could clearly see that many of the big screens in the city had already switched to the Pacific Ocean. On the screen, there was a black-clothed man and a white-robed bald youth flying side by side. This made Luo Feng's heart ache. Humanity's last hope? Luo Feng thought. Regarding the Dojo of Limits and Thunder Dojo's decision to publicize this news and broadcast it to the entire world, Luo Feng understood. After all, the leaders and founders of the 2 dojos had to fight to the death. There was a high chance that they would fall. How could the 2 dojos let their leaders silently sacrifice themselves? And to the countries of the world, this was a chance to ignite humanity's fighting spirit. If Hong and Thunder God succeeded, it would be a joyous occasion. If they failed, they could use this opportunity to ignite humanity's fighting spirit. Mingyu District. As the Dojo of Limits Fighter District, they had already begun gathering all the residents to head to the dojo. The Dojo of Limits' largest training hall. Right now, close to 1,000 people were gathered. On the huge walls of the training hall hung a huge screen, projecting onto it. It was the Pacific Ocean. At this time, Hong and Thunder God, the 2 strongest fighters in human history, are flying side by side in the Pacific Ocean. Their target is the strongest existence of the sea monsters, the swallowing monster. Beside them, a voice explained the battle. This battle was broadcasted live by the countries of the world. Including the leaders of the various countries, they were all nervously watching. Humanity's 2 strongest fighters to date. Fighting to the death. Investigator Luo, how powerful is that swallowing monster? The 2 heads will definitely win. A youth standing behind Luo Feng said softly. Luo Feng glanced at this youth. This youth was a new fighter who had just moved into the Mingyu District. Looking at this youth, Luo Feng felt like he was looking at himself back when he first moved into the Mingyu District. Yes, they will definitely win. Luo Feng said firmly. Close to 1,000 people stood in the training hall, all looking up at the huge screen. As time was short, the dojo couldn't gather that many chairs. What's more, at this time no one cared about that. Luo Feng's family was among them. Luo Feng held Su Xian's hand, quietly watching the screen. At this time, the entire world was watching the 2 strongest fighters in human history, one black-clothed, one white-clothed. The 2 of them were like legendary gods flying in the night sky. Indeed, even though it was currently noon in China, Hong and Thunder God's area of the ocean was already dark. Haha, brother Hong, how many people do you think are watching us right now? Thunder God smiled. Probably over 6 billion. Hong smiled as he glanced at him. At this time, you still have the time to think about this? What's wrong, can't you be happy before you die? Thunder God smiled. Cheeky, you've been cheeky for a few decades, even at this time you're still cheeky. Hong smiled as he said at this time, the 2 of them had an unprecedented state of mind. They had long disregarded life and death, throwing everything to the back of their minds. They only had one goal, to kill the swallowing monster. In this state, the 2 of them felt unprecedentedly relaxed. Every cell in their body seemed to be boiling, ready to battle. Master, the swallowing monster is swiftly flying towards the surface. It'll be out of the water soon. A voice resounded in Hong's mind. In terms of AI systems. Actually, Hong had acquired quite a few AI systems, like the Palace of War God's virtual space, or the Dojo of Limits internal phone call that always had a low voice. For Hong to be able to take out so many treasures to exchange for, one could only imagine his gains. After all, he was the world's strongest warrior. Many of the treasures from the ruins before were taken away by him alone. Like back then during LuoFeng's investigator ceremony, Hong flipped his hand and the limit investigator badge appeared. That was because he had a space to store items. In terms of quality, LuoFeng's was better than his. However, in terms of quantity, he had more than LuoFeng's. Fly out of the water? Hong's eyes gleamed. Go over there. Hong ordered softly. So, one black and one white, two beams of light swiftly flew southwest. Under the night sky, the winds howled, the deep-sea water was crazily churning, each wave was at least 10 m tall. Rumble. A terrifying monster fiercely rushed out of the water, it had scaled wings for claws, a powerful tail, and a golden horn that pierced towards the sky. However, the golden engravings on the horn seemed to be a little dimmer than before. However, its dark golden eyes were even crazier than before. That was a craziness from suppressing its rage. It was currently constantly recovering its strength. Once its strength was sufficient, it would definitely take revenge, ruthlessly take revenge. Howl. The golden horned beast immediately flew 10 kilometers out of the sea, suddenly stopping, slightly twisting its head. Its dark golden eyes seemed to be able to see 100 kilometers away. It had already detected the two energies. However, such a weak energy actually dared to provoke it. This made the golden horned beast extremely furious. The nobility of its bloodline, it had an absolute arrogance. Looking at the vast universe, it was one of the pinnacle bloodlines. In this weak little planet, a weak human actually dared to provoke it? Rumble. The scaled wings slightly flapped, immediately becoming a beam of light and flying straight towards Hong and Thunder God. The entire world held its breath at this moment. Mingyue District, within the Limit Hall's training hall, close to 1,000 people were nervously staring at the screen. On the screen, above the deep sea, the swallowing beast's huge body was already less than 1 kilometer away from Hong and Thunder God. Rumble. Rumble. Hong and Thunder God's bodies suddenly emitted a terrifying light. In an instant, they had already ignited their souls. The battle had begun in an instant. Hong, Thunder God, please. Luo Feng held Su Xian's hand, looking at her abdomen, and then looked up at the screen. Night. The deep black ocean roared madly, the wind howled, the land and skies were dark. And in the air above the ocean, humanity's most terrifying enemy, the swallowing monster, and humanity's two pinnacle fighters, Hong and Thunder God, had already clashed. Rumble. Hong and Thunder God immediately began to unleash the final moves of a domain fighter. If they didn't have a domain, they wouldn't even have the ability to unleash this move. Hong's body, including the long spear in his hand, was immediately enveloped in a black light. Thunder God's entire body was enveloped in a snake-like green lightning. Haha. Thunder God laughed loudly. Haha. Hong laughed too. Shio. The two of them immediately formed two arcs, directly rushing from different directions towards the huge swallowing monster. The swallowing monster floated in mid-air, its dark golden eyes coldly looking at the two rushing humans. From its point of view, these two humans were just slightly stronger ants amongst the countless ants. Yangzhou Limit Hall Training Room. Luo Feng was beside his family looking at the screen, extremely nervous. They're going all out, Luo Feng, this Hong and Thunder God are going all out, directly burning their souls. Their battle will last at most 1 minute. Within 1 minute, if the swallowing monster isn't killed, then the two of them won't have any ability to resist at all. Babata's voice resounded in Luo Feng's mind. Luo Feng's heart tightened. Burning their souls, is it the same as the UNMO planet spirit readers? In the UNMO planet's many secret manuals, there were many regarding the basics, but in the mixed records, there were also many secret techniques of the UNMO planet such as Soul Seal, Tower of the Void, and many other secret techniques, all of them profound and powerful. Naturally, there were also techniques related to burning one's soul. Of course it's different in terms of technique level, the UNMO planet secret techniques are much higher. However, even though the technique level is high, its power still can't compare to those two. Babata said, what they're unleashing now, is a final move only a domain fighter can unleash. Soul, genetic energy, strength, willpower completely combined, communicating with the universe, exploding with the strongest power. It's extremely terrifying. If the opponent is killed in an instant, the two of them can still live. However, if the swallowing monster doesn't die, then they'll die. Babata said. Have the liquid silver guards arrived? Luo Feng asked. When he went to archaeological ruin number 12, Luo Feng obtained the liquid silver guard that had no energy left. However, after Babata repaired it and replenished its energy crystals, it could be used again. Soon. However, Luo Feng, liquid silver guards are bodyguards, if the two of them go to their deaths, the liquid silver guards won't be able to help. Babata said helplessly. Do your best and leave it to fate. Luo Feng stared at the screen. The conversation with Babata seemed long, but it was actually an exchange of thoughts that ended in an instant. However, it was only for a short while. The battle on the screen had reached its climax. It was a battle that could be called a stellar-level battle. Ordinary people could not see it clearly with the naked eye. They could only watch the replay, slow motion, and commentary on the screen. And Luo Feng. He was the only person in the training hall who could see the fight clearly. Not good, the swallowing move. Luo Feng's expression changed. Above the Pacific Ocean, the golden horned beast's tail was like a shadow, instantly slicing through space, sweeping towards Hong and Thunder God. Peng? The golden horned beast felt a strange spinning force coming from the opponent's spear, causing the strength of its tail to be a little messed up. Howl? The golden horned beast raised its head, letting out an earth-shattering roar. It was enraged. It originally thought that these two slightly stronger ants could be easily crushed and killed by it with its normal strength. However, after exchanging blows, it realized that these two seemingly tiny humans had extremely shocking battle capabilities. They were even stronger than the Star Level 1 humans from its inherited bloodline memories. Also, their blade and spear techniques were even more shocking. Every blade, every spear seemed to be made by the heavens, and it was completely unable to predict. It could be said that this golden horned beast that had only been born for a year with its long lifespan, was probably only comparable to a human baby that had just been born and drank milk. Even though its bloodline was noble and its inherited bloodline memories were extremely vast, other than its own natural abilities, there were many other memories and knowledge that needed to be learned. 1 year's time, how could it be enough to learn? In terms of level, even compared to Luo Feng, it was still a huge gap. If compared to Hong and Thunder God who had stepped into the domain level, the difference would be like the difference between heaven and earth. The two powerful human warriors that had their souls ignited, compared to the heavily injured golden horned beast, the difference wasn't that huge. How? The golden horned beast opened its mouth. Not good. Careful. Hong and Thunder God's expressions changed. The entire world's powerful warriors watching the scene through the satellites all had a change in expression. Everyone had seen the golden horned beast's peculiar swallowing ability. Rumble. Hong and Thunder God followed the battle plan from before, immediately flying towards the same direction. The two were actually together. The golden horned beast's dark golden eyes gazed at these two tiny specks, even more enraged and crazed. These two tiny humans were simply looking for death. Originally it wanted to swallow one since they were together, then it would swallow the two together. Chi-chi. A formless space energy spread out a few hundred meters, completely covering Hong and Thunder God's area. Brother Hong. Thunder God's expression changed slightly. Hong waved his hand. Immediately in front of Hong, in the space between Hong and the swallowing beast, a black mass of large amounts of metal wreckage appeared. Stacked so tightly that there was almost no space left, the large amount of metal wreckage in terms of size, was even larger than the swallowing beast. 180 m long, 120 m wide, 100 m tall, it was roughly this number. Large amounts of metal wreckage were densely stacked together. One must know that LuoFeng's Black Dragon Mountain X-81 ship had a diameter of only 100 m or so. And even though there was a lot of metal in the ship, many of the halls, cabins, control rooms etc. were all empty. Meaning to say the ships, transport battleships etc. were all just shells. It couldn't possibly be completely made of metal. However, in front of him was a thing made up of densely packed metal wreckages. I'll let you swallow, I'll let you swallow. Swallowing a few bases and you can't take it anymore. These are all ship wreckage from the archaeological ruins. In terms of quality, they are much higher than Earth's metal. And with this much metal, it's enough to build 10 adventure ships. Let's see if you can swallow it all. Hong's eyes were cold, thinking within. Using common sense. Just like a human eating too much would make one bloat. I'll give you another point. Hong's gaze was cold, following which, he waved his hand again. Wah! A large bundle of long metal objects was tied together. Come, these are the ones I've collected from many countries, a total of 18 hydrogen bombs. And the ones used to ignite them. Hong took out the hydrogen bombs. Whoa! The golden horned beast angrily stopped swallowing, letting out an angry roar. It still remembered the power of a hydrogen bomb with a yield of 150 megatons last time. 18 of them at once? Even though they were small, the golden horned beast didn't just randomly swallow them. And that 180 m long, 120 m wide, 100 m tall huge amount of metal wreckage, it didn't dare swallow it either. Why did it continuously go out to the sea to swallow metal and not a lot at once? It was because its appetite was limited. If a human ate too much they would die. The same logic, it also didn't dare swallow so much metal at once. After all, one piece of metal was equivalent to 100 pieces of Earth's normal metal. Swallowing so much, its internal world would also collapse, and when the internal world collapses, it would die. Whoa! Letting out an angry roar, the golden engravings on the horn of the golden horned beast's forehead suddenly lit up. Its eyes also became a blinding gold. The gold light swiftly followed its neck and back, swiftly reaching its front claws, the sharp claws swiping forward. The large amount of metal wreckage was smashed and sent flying. The sharp claws immediately swiped towards Hong and Thunder God who were behind the large amount of metal. However, when its huge claws had just swiped away the large amount of metal, a black energy wave immediately enveloped it. Its speed was shocking. Chi. A very light sound like the sound of hair being burnt by fire, just like when the swallowing beast was hit by a B6 grade laser cannon. The black energy wave whistled past the claws, and directly struck the golden horned beast's abdomen. That incomparably sturdy scale actually had a hole drilled through it. Brother Hong. A shrill cry resounded through the sky. A bolt of lightning madly rushed towards that hole. Feeling the black-clothed youth actually enter its body, the incomparably angry golden horned beast clawed towards the lightning-wrapped bald white-clothed youth. Chi-chi. The sharp energy swept past the white-clothed bald, Poochie, fresh blood and flesh flew everywhere. The white-clothed youth's waist and below were all turned into minced meat. Only his upper body didn't shatter because of the armor Luo Feng gave him. He didn't retreat. Even if the lower half of his body became minced meat, he still had to rush in. He was very clear on their plan. The price Hong had to pay for using his ultimate move to drill into the golden horned beast was terrifying. Their original plan only had one line. The best way to kill the golden horned beast was to enter its body. Even if I die, I have to kill it. Half a white silhouette. His eyes were bloodshot, incomparably mad. Lightning wrapped around the lower half of the white silhouette, directly entering that hole. The golden horned beast roared angrily. However, those two despicable humans had already entered its body. The entire world was silent. Luo Feng stared at the screen. On the screen was the incomparably angry golden horned beast. The right side of the screen was replaying in slow motion. In the replay, Hang's skin was dripping with blood, just like a demon, piercing through the golden horned beast's scales, drilling into its body. Thunder God, only half a white-clothed body was left, madly rushing into the swallowing beast's body, risking his life to kill the swallowing beast.